All right, I'm going to be reading Paper Wishes, and we are on the chapter called November. And if you remember when we read the end of October, Ron had been taken by the police. And so everybody is concerned and worried about what's going to be happening with Ron. So let's see how his family, Manami's family, is doing. When Father is home, he glowers. His anger blames the Wild Boys. It blames their fathers. It blames Mother and me. His anger blames Miss Rosalie. Mother watches and waits. Her sorrow fills her eyes, brimming over when she thinks I am sleeping. Grandfather's hands do not stop working. In his worry, he twists wires and sands wood pieces, making tiny boats and tiny houses. Miss Rosalie's face grows more and more gaunt. Okay, that word gaunt means that it's getting thinner and thinner. Her face is getting thinner and thinner, which just tells you that she's probably not eating a lot because she's really worried. Her grief causes shadows to ring her eyes. 3 days after Ron's arrest, the rain finally stops. No tapering off for this rain. 1 minute roaring and pounding, the next minute silence. After dinner, I run to my classroom. The light is still on. I take Miss Rosalie's hand and bring her home with me. It is the only way I can think of to take care of her. At our small table, Mother feeds Miss Rosalie. Grandfather pats her arm. And finally, Father speaks. He should have returned to Indiana, Father says. Yes, says Miss Rosalie. But he stayed here for you, Father says. Not for me, she says. I begged him to go. Mother whispers to Father. But his voice is softer when he speaks again. You should be careful, he says. If you hear anything, Mother says, I will tell you. Miss Rosalie says, thank you for welcoming me. Mother grasps Miss Rosalie's hands, then motions me to open the door. I walk with Miss Rosalie through our block. When we reach the administration buildings, Miss Rosalie stops. Thank you, my dear. Ron said, her voice breaks. Ron said, Manami is the best little sister. Hurry home. I watch Miss Rosalie walk toward her home. When the darkness swallows her, I trudge through the mud to block 3. Just as our door closes behind me, I look in the direction of the schoolyard. In the faraway glow of a streetlight, I see the silhouette of a dog. It is hard to see clearly. The lamp is dim, the dog is far. Our door closes quickly. But I think I see pointed ears. I think I see a small, firm body. I think I see a nose raised in the air. Has Yuzhin finally come? I push the door open again, but the dog is gone. And I wonder, where is it gone? I wonder why I did not see it when I stood there with Miss Rosalie only minutes ago. I take a step outside when something else catches my eye. Gleaming white letters against black walls. Watch out, traitors. The letters are so fresh, they drip. I hurry back into our room, grab Grandfather's hand and pull him with me. Mother and Father follow. When Father sees the letters, he says, go inside. Mother and I wait in our room. After many minutes, Grandfather and Father return. Ooh. It is gone, Father says. His sleeves are wet around his wrists, and he has white smudges on his clothes. I have to report this, but I want you to stay inside. From now on, none of you are to go out alone. The next morning, Father doesn't go to work. We're going to visit Ron, he says. When I don't move from the table right away, he picks up my coat and drapes it over my shoulders. Come, he says. Inside the jail, Ron sits at a table. Behind him, there are rooms with bars. As soon as we walk through the door, Ron stands. Father, Ron says in his whisper voice. He looks at the ground. Mother hugs him. She reaches her hand and smooths his hair back from his forehead. I do not hear what she says to him. Grandfather hugs Ron next. Son, Father says, and his voice rumbles. Ron finally looks up. I'm sorry, Ron tells him. For leaving school? No, Ron says, not school. They told me about the words painted on the wall last night. I'm sorry for shaming you this way. Father does not speak. Then he clears his voice. This shame is not yours, he says. A soldier comes inside the room with us. Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka, he says. He looks at Grandfather. My grandfather, says Ron. Please sit, the soldier says. We'd like to release Ron. But even before the graffiti in your block last night, we knew it might not be safe for him. We can transfer him to another camp. Minidoka in Idaho seems like the best choice, but we can consider Arizona too. Idaho? Arizona? Mother whispers, they are so far away. Or we can release him here, the soldier says, but we cannot guarantee his safety. So this is interesting because as I'm thinking about this, I'm saying, I'm wondering if the soldiers, did they take Ron to jail in order to protect him? Because they're talking now about protecting Ron. Did they know that something was going on? He says, even before the graffiti in your block, we knew it might not be safe for him. So maybe because he stood up for the boys, maybe, I don't know, maybe for some reason the soldiers knew it wasn't Ron who did something wrong, but maybe they knew that they needed to protect Ron. What about at the other camps, Father asks? Can you guarantee his safety there? No, the soldier says, but I think it would be better than here. Can he return to school? Grandfather asks. That might be an option down the road, the soldier said, but there's a lot of paperwork to handle before that can happen, and we can't keep him in jail that long. I'll leave you folks to talk about it. After the soldier is gone, Father speaks. You must go, he says. The soldier is right. It is not safe for you here. I agree, says Mother. Grandfather, Ron asks. I think the only choice is which camp, Grandfather said, and Ron's shoulders slump. The camp in Idaho is closest to home, Mother says. Maybe it will be a place where you can come too. Maybe it will be a place where you can come too, Ron says. By the time the soldier returns, Ron has told Mother what he would like her to pack for him. Have you made a decision? The soldier asked. Minidoka, Ron says. I'll arrange for you to leave tomorrow, the soldier says. Mother and Grandfather and Father wait at the door when Ron bends down next to me. I'm sorry I can't stay, he says. I wrap my arms around his neck. Maybe this time you will come to me, Ron says. I do not want to let go of Ron's neck, but Father picks me up and carries me. I have so many tears that Father's shirt is wet when I rest my cheek against it. Mother does not make me go to school after we leave the jail. She keeps me inside our room, folding sheets and blankets and clean clothes for Ron. She shows me where to stack Ron's books so she can choose which to send with him. But when she is ready to pack his suitcase, she sends me outside. I need to concentrate, she says, so I can get this done quickly before I have to go to work. While I squat next to the empty mounds of Mother's garden, I can feel staring eyes at my back. I spin around and no one is there. I can hear panting behind me. I turn as fast as I can. No one is there, not anywhere. I creep along the path as slow as I can, in case I feel something, in case I hear something, but I don't. Then a light breeze wafts past my nose, salty, sandy, fresh. I run, back to where I saw the silhouette last night, over to the water pump where I remember shadows and whines. I look under steps, under behind barracks, inside windows. I look and I run. I run until Grandfather catches me. He lifts me high into his arms, tight against his chest. He carries me home. He is not here, little one, Grandfather says. I want to tell Grandfather he is wrong. I felt him, I heard him, I smelled him. But I know Grandfather is right. He is not coming, Grandfather says. I want to tell Grandfather he is wrong too. The wind carried 31 drawings and a message shown in my lantern. But I know grandfather is right. Yuzhin did not find my drawings and he did not see my message. You must stop looking for him, grandfather says. How can I stop looking for him? I want to tell grandfather. Remember, once I let him go. I let him go. I wish dust would fill my nose so that I cannot smell. I wish dust would blow past my ears on the wind so that I cannot hear. I wish dust would cover my eyes so that I cannot see. But mostly I wish I would not feel this big empty space inside of me. Yuzhin is gone and now Ron is gone too. When I am in bed at that night, I overhear grandfather's rumbling low voice. Perhaps enough time has passed that Manami is ready for a dog now, he says. Do you think she has forgotten Yuzhin? Father asked. Then why isn't she talking? She will not forget Yuzhin, grandfather says, but Manami is the kind of girl who must have something to care for. Caring for the garden was good for her, and I think her heart is ready for a new friend, especially now that Ron is leaving. Maybe her new friend will teach her to talk again. After a while, Father says, I will ask the soldiers if there are any new dogs. The room becomes silent after their talk, and then I hear sleeping sounds, soft breaths, and light snores. Is grandfather right? Will a new friend fill the empty space inside of me? Will a new friend help me talk again? It takes a long time for me to fall asleep. The next morning, Mother says, I will walk to school with you. We leave early. Mother doesn't want to meet anyone on the way, I think. She carries a bowl with a cloth wrapped around it. Mother motions for me to wait outside when she walks up the steps to Miss Rosalie's classroom, but I pretend I don't see her and follow behind. Tears slide down Mother's cheeks when she tells Miss Rosalie, we saw him yesterday. He has gone to Mendicota in Idaho, where he will be safe. Safer than here. If only he had returned to Indiana, Miss Rosalie says. If he had returned to Indiana, then he would be somewhere else, Mother says. Mother puts her arms around Miss Rosalie, hugging her close. She puts the bowl filled with the salty sour rice bowls in Miss Rosalie's hand. Mother is taking care of Miss Rosalie too. Later in class, Miss Rosalie tells us stories about her kitten. It is not chatter, but it is not silence either. She walks around the room, touching each student's shoulder. It is not flitting, but it is not sitting either. So maybe the author is showing you how Miss Rosalie is trying to move on, come to grips with this, keep moving on with her life. Not that she's forgetting Ron, but just being okay. When I walk home, I wrap my scarf around my head, covering my ears. I hold my hands alongside my eyes, blocking everything except for what is right in front of me. And this way I cannot listen or look. I think I will make an ocean picture in the dirt, in block 3, in front of our barracks. I unwrap my scarf and hand it to grandfather. First, I sweep the dirt in front of our barracks. The mud is gone and the dirt is hard, so it is easy to sweep it smooth. Next, I use grandfather's rake to draw waves in the dirt. I have to dig in to carve out the waves and show their curly edges. I add a beach and my sitting rock. Grandfather sits on the steps in front of our room and looks at the ocean waves. Listen to the waves roll in and out, grandfather says. Watch them. Breathe in and out with them. The waves reach beyond the prison village, beyond the mainland, all the way to the island. I breathe in and out. And suddenly, I hear a yap. I see a fluffy little body run across the waves and along the beach. I hear grandfather take in a quick breath. I see father and mother coming toward me. I jump and run. For a second, I think it is Yuzhin. Only, now that I hold him in my arms, I see that it is not Yuzhin. He is white, like Yuzhin, fluffy, like Yuzhin, soft, like Yuzhin. He puts his nose in my neck, like Yuzhin. He licks my chin, like Yuzhin. Father speaks. A soldier said someone abandoned this dog by the gate. It's been following him around, but he does not want it. Mother speaks. He is not Yuzhin, but he is yours if you will have him. He needs someone to take care of him. Grandfather speaks. He will not replace Yuzhin in your heart, but he will make your heart bigger to fit himself inside too. I take this fluffy white dog who is not Yuzhin and will not replace Yuzhin inside the house. I pour water from a pitcher into a small bowl and set it on the floor. I break a hard cookie into pieces and put the pieces in a small bowl and set the bowl next to the water. After he eats and drinks, I make a nest for him on my bed, and I curl up beside him, tucking him into my arms. He snorts and sighs and sleeps. Grandfather was right. I have taken care of him, and I feel my heart growing bigger. Look for the questions for this chapter and the next chapter. I'm going to combine the questions into one. And actually, I think I'm going to just keep reading. And I'm going to read December since that was kind of a shorter chapter. So hang in there with me and let's keep reading and see what happens next. As hot as the summer was in the prison village, winter is that cold. Winter is not wet like on the island. It is dry, cold and dry. Sores stretching across my chapped knuckles rip open and bleed. Skin peels from my lips. My eyes sting and burn. This happens when it's dry. I know from living in Illinois where the weather is really dry in the winter that sometimes around my fingertips it would crack just because of washing my hands and then my hands would get dry. So these things can happen when your skin is just really dry. At least there is no fresh dust to coat my nose and mouth. At least there is a soft body to warm me at night. Father calls my friend Seal. Dark eyes, dark nose, white, just like a seal pup, Father says. Seal and Grandfather walk me to school in the morning. You know, that sounds just like the story at the beginning. Instead of Seal, it was Eugen, but the two of them would walk her to school. They sit on the steps of our barracks during the day having long conversations, which are just between themselves. Grandfather says, they meet me near the flagpole in the schoolyard at the end of the day. I'm thinking to myself that not only is this a dog for Manami, but for Grandfather too. Grandfather missed Eugen just as much. And so this is a dog for him too. During school hours, Seal is sometimes Grandfather's dog resting by his side. He is sometimes Father's dog, trotting around the work crew. He is sometimes Mother's dog, waiting at the door of the mess hall. But in the hours before school and after school, Seal is my dog. He bounces and yaps at me even though I cannot laugh. He whines and follows me even though I cannot call. And when his body is pressed close to my chest, or when he wags his tail while he laps up potatoes and chicken, or when he flaps onto the steps watching the path, my heart squeezes close. It should be Eugen who bounces and yaps and who whines and follows and who wags and flops. My heart hurts, and I remember that it is my fault that Eugen is wandering out there alone. And then Seal rests his nose on my neck, and my heart opens again. So the author is describing this process of how hard it is to lose something. Maybe you've had an experience like this where you've lost something or you miss something, and your heart hurts a little bit, maybe a whole lot of it. But then as you begin to get used to new things, as you learn to love new things, your heart opens up again. And it's just this process that your heart has to go through. But even with Seal pressed against me, I am not happy. I am not happy in this prison village, not happy without Ron. And then I watch Father and Mother, and it is not unhappiness I see, it is fear. Fear on the faces of many in Block 3. The air hums with a stamping of boots, of soldiers and policemen, until one night I hear sirens and screams, and the next morning we hear the news. A man was beaten by men wearing masks, by men who under those masks have faces just like mine. I remember the Wild Boys and their talk of spies and traitors, and I am glad that Ron has gone away. Fear swells all day. A few people gather by the administration buildings, then a few more and more. The crowd grows until it is bigger than all of the people in Block 3, more people than many blocks combined. Fear grows from a hum to crackle to sizzles, softly at first, then louder and louder. Riot, stay inside, is whispered from barrack to barracks in Block 3. But even inside, I can hear crackles and sizzles turn into roars, shouts, shots. The next day we hear whispers, 2 boys shot. One is dying and one is dead. After the riot, school is canceled. Kimi and Coco stay in our room while Kimi's mother works. Kimi tries to teach Seal to balance a paper ball on his nose. No one goes out alone. No one goes out for long. We receive a letter from Ron. It is creased and a little dirty. Mom passes the note to me to read. Minidoka is cold, even colder than where we are now. Otherwise, it looks the same. Blocks of barracks, endless space but no ocean, and there is snow already. This camp just opened. It is not full yet. It has a few families and a few children. The people who are in the camp are from Washington and Oregon. When Father comes home, Mother hands Father Ron's letter. There are a few families there, Grandfather says. There are a few families there, Grandfather says, but there are families. There are a few children, Grandfather says, but there are children. Shall we try to go there, Mother asks. Yes, Father says. Yes, Grandfather says. Yes, I think. So let's stop and think here. Certainly we have been aware of riots just because of our own hometown in Seattle, where people are protesting. And maybe protesting is the better word. A protest is when you want to share your point of view. And so these people are telling the administration how they feel. Maybe how they feel worried and afraid for their safety. Maybe how they don't like some of the rules in the prison. I'm not quite sure, but they're definitely protesting, and people are feeling unsafe, which is sometimes how we feel when there's protests going on. Sometimes they're very peaceful, and sometimes they lead to more things. A week after the rioting, the prison village starts to return to normal. That morning, Mother puts a note in my hand for Miss Rosalie. Even though school hasn't started again, I find Miss Rosalie in her classroom. Yes, Miss Rosalie says after reading the note, this is what I was thinking too. I can guess what Mother wrote. We will try to go to Ron. Grandfather and Seal are waiting for me outside, and on our way home we run into Kimi. Hello, Mr. Ishii, she says. She drops on the ground next to Seal and scratches his ears. We follow Grandfather, and Kimi swings my hand as we walk. Seal runs back and forth between us and Grandfather. Just like on the island, Kimi says. That evening, all of the island fathers from Block 3 meet after dinner in the mess hall, and Grandfather goes too. And when they return to our room, Father tells Mother what happened. Many in Block 3 are unhappy. The beating, the riot, the violence. There is a new warden in our camp, and maybe he will listen, because many in Block 3 want to leave this place. They have letters from friends who were sent to Minidoka, Ron's camp. Father will request a meeting with this new warden. He will ask him if our family can move to join Ron at Minidoka. He will ask if all of the Block 3 families can go to Minidoka. Mother writes a letter to Keiko. I draw a picture of Yujin. Perhaps there is a way to send Minami to Keiko, Father says. No, it is not possible, Mother says. She is too young. The next morning, Father leaves earlier than usual. He carries with him the letter to be sent to Keiko. Father returns that evening with a glum face. I wasn't able to schedule a meeting with the warden, he says. Father tries again the next day, and the next. And on the fourth day, Father returns to Block 3 with a smile. There must be good news, Grandfather says to me when he sees Father's smile. Father tells us the warden will make arrangements for all the island families in Block 3 who wish to move to the new camp. There will be a meeting tonight to discuss the details. It will take time for the new camp to be ready for so many people. The warden said that not everyone will move at the same time, but everyone should be ready to move by the end of January. Mother and Father attend the meeting, but Grandfather and I wait in our room. Grandfather carves a block of wood. I brush Seal's short, thick fur. The first transport leaves in 2 weeks, Father says when he and Mother come home. I pick up Seal. Will we have to leave him behind? Mother puts her arm around me and whispers in my ear, We will hope. We will hope, she says. Mother sends me with another note from Miss Rosalie. When I find her in a classroom, she says, "It's funny to be in class without students, but I don't know what else to do." I hand her the note. "You are really leaving," Miss Rosalie says after she reads it. Her eyes are bright and I think she is going to cry. I touch her hand. "It's all right," she says. "I want you to go so that Ron is not alone, but I will miss you." She takes her hand from mine and hugs me. "It's for the best," she whispers. I look around the classroom trying to memorize everything about it. The pink curtain, Miss Rosalie's desk with its collection of pretty things she found, rocks and seeds and a nest, a square room with 4 walls, her books on a shelf. When I go home, I start to draw a picture of Miss Rosalie on a piece of paper. It takes a few days before it is right. I want this picture to be perfect. I want to give this picture to Ron. When she is not working, Mother sorts and folds and packs our suitcases, kimonos, dresses, pants, shoes, Father's tools. She wraps the seeds she saved from last harvest and she washes blankets and sheets. Mother digs into the hard frozen earth of her garden for tiny onions and garlic. She breaks dirt with a hammer until it's crumbly and fills a pillowcase. She stuffs her onions and garlic into the dirt sack and wraps it in a sheet. Mother writes letters to Keiko and Ron. I would like to help Mother pack, but she sends me outside to play with Seal. The day before we leave, Mother keeps me home. All morning I help her clean our room. After lunch, Grandfather says, "Walk with me." We walk past our barracks and past Block 1 and Block 2, Seal skipping between our legs. We walk around the fence. We walk until we reach a shrunken puddle of icy mud. Grandfather unlaces his shoes and steps out of them. He peels off his socks and puts them in his shoes. He steps into the mud. Do you remember them doing this at the beginning of the book on the ocean? "Come," Grandfather said, and his smile is wide. The icy mud is colder than I imagined. It is so cold that I worry my toes might freeze and fall off my feet. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear ocean waves, Grandfather says, rolling in, rolling out. You can almost smell ocean salt, Grandfather says, tangy and sharp. You can almost feel ocean breeze, Grandfather says, cool and moist. I close my eyes and listen and smell and feel. Grandfather is right. My breath rolls in and out like the ocean waves. I feel calm spread from my chest to my head and my arms and my legs. When I open my eyes, Grandfather is smiling at me. You see? I use Grandfather's handkerchief to wipe and dry my feet before I put my shoes back on, and together we walk through the prison village that has become our home. We stop at the water pump, the mess hall, and Mother's garden, and when we reach my classroom, I want to see if Miss Rosalie is there so I can say goodbye to her. Grandfather walks home, Seal in his arms. Miss Rosalie sits at her desk, a pen in her hand and a book in front of her, but she is looking out the window. When she notices me, she stares for several seconds, and then she stands. I heard you were leaving tomorrow, she said. I was hoping you would come and say goodbye. I run to Miss Rosalie and wrap my arms around her waist. She drops to her knees and hugs me back. I am glad, Miss Rosalie says. I am glad, but I am also sad. The layers of dust coating my throat begin to crack as tears wash my cheeks. This will not last forever, Miss Rosalie says. It cannot. Miss Rosalie releases me to get something from her desk. She walks me to the classroom door and puts a book in my hand. For Ron, she says. He likes these poems. Then she takes the scarf from her neck and ties it around mine. For you, she says. And then she gives me a stack of paper. The address of my uncle and aunt is on the top paper. I do not know how much longer I will stay here, but you can always reach me through them, Miss Rosalie says. Now dry your eyes. You are brave, Minami, and you are strong. Then she kisses my forehead. I love you. I dry my eyes and walk home, my throat aching from the widening cracks. Seal sits on the steps of our barracks while Grandfather wipes him with a cloth. He should be clean when we reach our new home, Grandfather said. That evening, Father and Grandfather and I walk to the mess hall. Normal and not normal. I pour tea into 4 cups. Normal and not normal. We sit on a bench while we wait for Mother to finish her shift so that we can all walk home together. Normal and not normal. Remember when the author had this same pattern earlier? Normal would be Grandfather and me walking into the mess hall alone and Father joining us later. Normal would be pouring steaming tea into 5 cups, and normal would be walking home without Mother and waiting for her there while she finishes her shift. Before we leave the mess hall, Kimi squeezes onto the bench beside me. "I will miss you," she whispers in my ear. I put my arms around her and hug her tightly. "Save a seat for me in the new school," she says before she runs back to sit with her mother. We hear whispers from our island neighbors as we walk through Block 3 to our barracks. "We will join you soon," our neighbors say. "Find a good spot for a garden," our neighbors say. "Travel safely," our neighbors say. We do not say goodbye to the other families. Mother does not lay out our best clothes for tomorrow. "Sleep," she says, and sends me to bed. Seal jumps on my bed and curls into a ball. His black nose and black eyes remind me of Yuzhin, remind me of the island, of leaving the island and coming here, of leaving Yuzhin. I snuggle deep under the blanket with Seal in my arms. The cold day is turned even into a colder night, and I think of Mother's words. We will hope. In the morning, 4 suitcases line up in our room. Dark clouds cover the sun, cover the sky, dark, heavy, and low. I button Seal inside my coat and drag my suitcase, following Father and Mother and Grandfather down the dirt road to the gate. We wait while our suitcases are loaded in the bottom of the bus. We wait with the other families who are on the first bus to Minidoka. The dark and heavy clouds look ready to burst, and no one speaks. The door to the bus opens and we start to board. And just when it is our turn, Seal pops his head out of the neck of my coat to lick my chin. "Stop," says the soldier standing beside the bus door. "No dogs allowed." Father freezes, 1 foot on the bus step, 1 foot on the ground. Mother reaches toward me. Grandfather hunches over. I unbutton my coat and hold Seal's nose close to mine. He smells of sage and dust. He licks at the tears on my cheeks. I pull him close to my body and our hearts beat against each other. The cracks in my throat rip open wide. I remember Miss Rosalie's words. "I am brave. I am strong." "No," I say. "No." I push past Grandfather and Mother and Father. I stand before the soldier who will drive the bus. "No." All of the words I couldn't say are buried deep inside the one word I can speak. The driver looks at my face. He looks at Seal licking my tears, and he waves us on. I keep walking past other families all the way to the back of the bus. I sit on the long seat with the long window. I button Seal's warm body inside my coat and watch as the heavy clouds finally burst. White flakes swirl blowing past the window. Snow. The bus roars and pulls away from the gate, and behind me I see the prison village waking up. My classmates walking to the mess hall, fathers and mothers on their way to work, dogs running, walking, sitting, waiting. I see sharp barbed wire fences. What is ahead of me I cannot see. I know Ron is there. New classmates and fathers and mothers, new dogs and new fences. Mother walks toward me, her hands grasping the seats as the bus drives to the highway. She is crying. Father and Grandfather are behind her. They are crying too. And they are laughing. Have you ever done that? Cry and laugh at the same time? "Manami," Father says. Mother wraps her arms around me and Seal. My sweet girl. Grandfather sits beside me and pats my leg. Why do you think they are doing this? What has Manami finally done that would make everybody cry? I can think of 2 things, can you? Something about her voice and something about how she has changed. "I love you," I say. It is a scratchy whisper in my dry throat, but I say it again. I love you. Strong, like me. I practice using my voice. "Seal," I say. He pops his head out. Seal, I say. His mouth opens wide, his tongue hanging off to the side, his ears perk up, his eyes blink. Seal, I say, and I laugh. My throat is open again. I can see and smell and hear. I can speak. Strong words, brave words. And that's the end of the story. I want you to be thinking about how has Manami changed. She's been through so many experiences that are really difficult, and how has she changed? Remember to be looking for questions about both of these chapters underneath the video.